What up, everybody? I'm your host, JP, and this is my co-host, Josh.
Hey, everybody.
And welcome back to another episode of the FIlmBros podcast. Josh, today is the day. All right, the people asked for it. People want content. People want us to fight, okay?
Apparently so.
And beef needs to be started around here. And so, why are your socks on the floor? No, I'm just playing. People wanted beef. People wanted another ranking. We wanted to do another movie review, but we'll go ahead and we'll do a ranking this time. And I think the ranking ones are the funnest ones out of all of them, to be honest, because I feel like that's where we really see each other in a different light, right? Mm-hmm. Is where we kind of come in and start picking at each other's brain, like, why did you like this, or why do you like this?
Yeah.
Why are you the way that you are? If you will.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, before we get started and before we guys let you know what we will be ranking today, as always, if you guys have any input on any topics, any movies you guys want us to review, you guys want to hear a certain ranking, do you guys want us to hear us fighting about topics, let us know. If you guys want to support us in a big way, Josh, let them know.
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FIlmBros Podcast. We post our new episodes are up. You get us up there for any news or movies you want us to cover. Listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, things of that nature. And then Buzzsprout, the link is in those bios of the socials I gave you. Again, at FIlmBros Podcast, at all those socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Subscribers get special perks, things like that, shout outs on episodes. So why not? We recognize you for helping us out, and you help us grow. And then, yeah, subscribe to our YouTube.
Yes. Subscribe, and as always, there's new episodes for you guys to listen to right now. Old for us, new for you guys, if you guys are new to this podcast.
Yeah.
Without further ado, let's go ahead and start jumping right in. Josh, so today, I am coming into this booth to argue with you.
Yes.
On not only which Spider-Man movie is the best, but which is the better Spider-Man / Peter Parker altogether. Today we are going to be ranking all the live-action Spider-Man movies and the live-action Peter Parkers. We were thinking about going all out and doing the spinoffs too, but it sounds more contained. And I don't want this to be a punching bag session for Morbius. I don't want Josh to feel like he has to defend.
Dead last.
Yeah, we don't want to have to go around the block over and over again.
Although I think one time we should have that conversation
and have that. Okay, yeah. If you guys want to hear that, go ahead.
Spider-Man, because a lot of people aren't just dropping rankings like this anymore. They're including those spinoffs and now the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. So, and
I get it. They're a part of the conversation, but at the same time, are they
Spider-Verse?
There's no Spider-Man there though at all. I mean, in Morbius, didn't they have they had the trailer where they had Spider-Man as a poster, and they cut him completely by the time the movie came out. So, doesn't make any sense. We are hearing that a potential Andrew Garfield might be coming out, and Venom 3, maybe a TASM 3, maybe who knows. Still a strike going on, so we can't really go too deep with that one. That's still a rumor.
Started when they started filming.
Yeah, so jumping into it, so we have 8 live-action Spider-Man movies.
Yes. We
start off first with the OG Raimi trilogy. We have Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Those came out. Spider-Man 1 came out in 2002. We have Spider-Man 2 coming out in 2004, and Spider-Man 3 coming out in 2007. Rotten Tomato scores, not too bad, honestly. 90% for the OG Spider-Man with a certified fresh, a 67% on the audience score, though, so that's kind of a drop. That take into consideration there. Just for you, Josh, that one's for you. Spider-Man 2 had a 93% certified fresh meter and audience score at a 82%. That's crazy, too, because I heard Spider-Man 2 is like a universal love. I thought that would have been higher for me. That doesn't bother you? Did the first one bother you a little bit?
Yeah, it did, yeah. Because, I mean, yeah. I think it did kind of bother me. I feel like that was too low. And,
I could see 67 with the first Spider-Man.
I don't know.
I could see 67.
I don't think so.
Spider-Man 2.
A little bit higher.
And 82, I would say a little bit higher. I thought Spider-Man 2 is more universally loved. Yeah. I would think maybe a 90% audience score. Spider-Man 3 coming in with a not a fresh, but just a regular tomato, 63%, and an audience score of a 51%. So very split.
God damn.
Split divide
It
with
is
this
not
one.
that bad. No, there's no way. That one should have had a little bit higher.
Some dub it the worst Spider-Man movie.
No. That should be a little bit higher. 51% is crazy. This is why I don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. No,
This is the reason why they just want to pick beefs with you. Well,
Exactly.
I mean, a 51%, it coming out in 2007, it being completely, obviously Sam Raimi had a vision. Studio wanted to add another villain, which was Venom.
Yeah.
Considering how it came out by the end of the movie, and how people feel about Sandman's arc or whatever, blah blah blah. By the end of it, I think 51% kind of speaks to the how at least I see it when people come and approach me. I hear people fucking adore this movie, and we can all acknowledge Bully Maguire. We can all acknowledge that. That's fine. But then we have the other half that is like, nah, like this movie's trash. So I don't know. I kind of feel like there's that split divide.
Like not even to like give away where it's at on my list, but I don't think it's that bad.
No.
You
wouldn't dub it as the worst Spider-Man movie?
No.
I wouldn't dub it that either, but at the same
You're
time,
gonna find out.
let me just scratch this out. I wouldn't dub it either, but it's interesting.
You're gonna find out which Spider-Man.
You know what?
movie I
I've
think is
never
the
looked
worst.
at these Rotten Tomato scores, so it's interesting to see where they kind of land at. I don't even think Rotten Tomatoes was a thing when Spider-Man 1 came out.
That's
so
why. Yeah,
it has to be.
they like
influenced.
must have came back. Yeah.
I don't know. When did it come out? Does it say at the bottom? Usually the dates are at the bottom of the thing, right? When they first start. Estimated time, 1985 or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
Estimated? You mean established?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Established. Damn.
What do you call it? But I think 51% is crazy.
Yeah.
Because even like its little extended cut is kind of nice.
So do you think that it should have been more in the favor of liked or should have been in the favor of disliked? Do you think,
I think
51
liked.
should have been lower?
I think it should have been a little bit more.
If you had a number to spit out right now for tomatoes, for audience score, what would you say?
I'd give that one the 65.
65?
Yeah.
Just a tad more than?
I'm not saying it's like 100% like good, but like
I
a little
would-
bit higher than 51.
It's at a 51% right now. I'd say 55%. I'd say maybe just that much people probably liked a little bit more, only for nostalgia factor of it being, the first live action.
Well, I don't
Venom,
know.
stuff
I don't
like
know
that.
where it go, what number it has to pass to not get that green bucket. But yeah,
It has
whatever number it
60.
takes. 60?
60.
Yeah, like 65.
You think like 65? I would say 55.
It needs to get out of that green bucket. There's no way.
I would say the green bucket is well deserved. But moving on, so then we move on to the reboot, right? After Raimi's trilogy, he apparently there was a rumored fourth, but he didn't have enough time and just passed on it.
2011.
Yeah, just didn't work out. 2012 birthed the new iteration with no longer Bully Maguire or Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire.
We got the new iteration with Andrew Garfield as the Amazing Spider-Man. 1 and 2, the first one came out in 2012. The second one came out in 2014. The Amazing Spider-Man has a Rotten Tomato score of 71% certified fresh and an audience score of 77%. No arguments there. I would say that's about it. 100%. I know there's a small percentage who didn't like the first Tazza movie, but it's mostly because of the suit. We can acknowledge the suit's not the best in this one. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fitting.
You think it's fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, the lack of words for this movie is just daunting because it looked like you were ready to get a pitchfork and torch for Spider-Man 3.
Well, this one is only controversial in the sense that, hey, this is the iteration right after Tobey, who arguably at the time produced the best Spider-Man movie, depending on how you feel about Spider-Man 2. And then, I guess the universally panned bastard child that is Spider-Man 3.
Okay.
But this one was in a lot of turmoil because I would say this is probably the first time we have heard of a reboot technically for Spider-Man and like comic book movies in general. Because think about it, the MCU had just kicked off, and then Nolan had his trilogy, and then Superman Returns. Superman was just another reboot. Superman was coming out after this one
with Man of Steel.
So
yeah.
like this was like the stamp of reboot. I would assume.
I would say this was the Sony attempt at their cinematic universe. They wanted the Sinister Six. They wanted Spider-Man to go up against everybody. They wanted to rival the MCU. but it was stopped oh so short.
Yeah, and that suit is very controversial.
100%.
But I like it.
To be discussed. So The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out in 2014. Like I said, got shy of a trilogy. Apparently, there's rumors that he might come back for TASM 3 or maybe Venom 3.
Yeah.
But Andrew Garfield came out swinging with 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, 51% rotten score, but a 64% audience score. I don't agree with this number. I'd say this one is both numbers. I would say at least the audience score should hit at least 70, and I would say the tomato meter would at least be at a 60. It's not the best movie, but I wouldn't say it's mid either. I kind of feel like 51%.
I think the audience score is fitting. As far as critic scores go, I think it probably should be higher, a little bit higher.
What would the number you throw out?
It's at 51 right now.
Yeah,
I would probably give that a 60.
A 60, right? Like right on just a tomato.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
it's not the worst.
Yeah, I wouldn't say rotten. I mean, you make it say it's not the worst. You make it sound like it's terrible or something. It's not bad.
Well,
it's
no,
not a bad movie.
Well, no, because people have their opinions on this, and we'll touch upon it later. But like, people arguably pan this one the worst or whatever because it's quote unquote overstuffed and whatnot. But I don't think that's it. Well, we'll discuss on why not later, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Overstuffing. Overstuffing. Okay. And then, like I said, abruptly halted, but then rebooted once again within the MCU. Now it's not his first Spider-Man appearance within the MCU, but Homecoming is his first movie. Official movie. Now we did see him in Civil War first, right?
Yeah.
And then we wound up seeing him in his own movie, and then we saw him in Infinity War, Endgame, and then he got his second movie.
Yeah, those aren't on the list, so don't expect them.
Yeah, they're not a part. They're not Spider-Man movies.
Exactly.
Moving on though, so we got the John Watts trilogy for the MCU. John Watts written and directed all three of these himself, so very good on his part. Spider-Man Homecoming coming in at a 92% certified fresh with an 87% audience score. Any fundamental gripes with that one?
No, I think that one's fitting. I think for at the time it works. Maybe audience score. No, all this works. All this seems fine.
I think it seems fitting.
Yeah, this is accurate.
I wouldn't say it's
this one feels kind of accurate.
A terrible movie. I liked it. It's good. I think it was a good way to present Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I guess. Especially in a family-friendly universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
More or less.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. And then we moved on. Like I said, he had Infinity War, he had Endgame, and then we went to Far From Home with Spider-Man 2. Far From Home, like I said, within the MCU, second entry in the Watts trilogy, got a 90% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and then an audience score of 95%. This one, for some reason, is panned as the worst of the trilogy, according to a lot, and according to you too.
Yeah,
I've heard you say it before. Yeah, I was gonna address it. I'm gonna address it soon. But actually, this might be the right spot. How is this the worst of the trilogy when the other one had a worse Rotten Tomato score? Tell me that.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes as a whole is a very weird thing because I don't know how it works. I don't know how critics vote for any of these scores or whatever.
Well, it's a registry of critics for the tomato meter. It's basically all these registered critics. They give their opinion. It puts it on a scale of those who disliked it to who liked it, and same thing with audience. That's why they were able to review bomb it. But I think they said they put more stricter rules and how many times you can put a review and stuff like that.
If that was the case, Eternals wouldn't have been so bad. No, but I don't know. I don't believe in critics' things. I believe what the consensus is, and the consensus is
that's a terrible movie.
This one's the worst one.
You ever thought about the theory that you just could surround yourself with yes men?
I'm aware of such phenomenon.
You could just be like, it's Far From Home bad. They're gonna be like, yeah, it's bad. Well, but then you have people over there where it's kind of like me, where I'm like, it's not bad, guys. It's not a bad movie. And then you got people over there that's like rolling their eyes the way that you just did right now.
No. They didn't see it. Didn't happen. I don't know. I think 95% is a little too much for this movie. Personally, the critics can feel how they want about it, but audience score feels a little high for me.
You don't think 95% of the population enjoyed this movie?
Yeah. There's no way. No.
There's no way that could have happened.
If I could give you a number, I'm not gonna take away from it fully, but at the same time, I don't think that's fitting. I'd give it like a 75.
You're just a hater.
No,
that's
no,
a
no.
hater number.
No,
that has
no.
to be a hater number.
If a hater number would have been like a 50, no.
I would have been like preying on your downfall number. I would have assumed like a good generous number to be like, oh, people didn't like it. Would have been like an 85 or like a 80.
I'm around there.
But no,
I'm around there.
No, you said 75.
Yeah,
that's kind of low.
That's
bro.
close to 80. I'm around there. I'm in the
But-
ballpark.
I guess you're in the neighborhood, so to speak. But then we move on to our final entry within this John Watts trilogy. We hear we might get more, so this rankings could update, and like I said, we might be able to do one ranking with the spin-offs included. That could be an enjoyable one, maybe a punching bag one day.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home came in 2021. I believe it was the first billion-dollar movie after the pandemic. Got a 93% certified fresh and a 98% audience score. How do we feel about that? 98, 93.
The 98, I guess, for this movie, the audience score makes sense.
Fair.
I can understand that.
3 Spider-Man.
3 Spider-Man. Everything around this movie was hype, and I understand that. We'll dive into the whole speculation of it only being fan service later. But audience score feels a little weird.
That's kind of crazy. So what do you mean fan service?
Well,
you
I don't
like
want to dive into it because I feel like that's a big part of
your presentation.
where we put it on our list. Maybe.
Well, I mean, you could describe fan service.
Well,
why did you feel like this movie had a ton of fan service, and what would you describe as fan service?
Okay, I describe fan service as like anything that has to do with nostalgia bait or pleasing the audience or obvious things that the studio will do to like put in a movie to obviously bring in like
what
audiences.
They did with John Krasinski and Mom.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange.
Well, yeah, but people, we didn't know that was happening.
What do you mean?
We didn't know that was a thing until we seen it, and then I think that's when everyone was like, "Oh, hey, we got to go check it out."
Krasinski as Fantastic Four.
Yeah, is Reed. I don't think that was revealed till like we saw the movie because they kept that movie in the hush hush.
Yeah, that one was under wraps, but it would be considered fan service because the internet was asking for, they were basically fan casting him, and then Marvel just kind of made it happen. That would be considered fan service.
Oh,
right?
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
In that context, yeah. I thought you meant like if people were watching it, like kind of how they were expecting Black Adam to do well because they gave
I'm not
fans
asking
the
about
Superman.
the performance.
But yeah, no, the concept. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying now. Yes, like that's what I imagine. So like bringing in familiar faces, Toby, Andrew, Jamie Foxx, the Lizard, even though we don't see his face, Daredevil. Yeah, all that to me is like fan service and hype.
Okay. But what is there a division where it's no longer fan service but crucial to the story? So like that Scorpion one, wouldn't that be like crucial to the story because they wanted to show the different multiverses and everything because it was a multiversal movie? Wouldn't that be considered part of the movie?
You mean like toward the end when like the
Yeah,
rifts are opening?
Yeah,
up?
is that what you meant by the Scorpion without showing his face? Or did they actually show the Scorpion?
No. In Homecoming, I guess that would be like the last place.
Oh, in Homecoming when we see him in the jail cell.
Yeah,
or
but
whatever.
that's not really fan service. That would have been service of the story.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But like
because they wanted to set something up.
Those cameos in the Rift are more of just like, hey, I know that guy.
So that you would consider that to be fan service?
A little bit,
not necessarily like crucial to the story.
No, not really, because like it makes sense. And even a lot of people were pointing it out. Like you see a Rhino, you do see Scorpion, you see what looks like Black Cat. People speculated Superior Spider-Man, things of that nature, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay. And then like, not to just bully this movie into the ground or nothing before we start, but Across the Spider-Verse had a lot of cameos of fan service too.
Mm-hmm.
But those I felt were probably more crucial to the story than that, if that makes any sense.
Spider-Cat, not really.
Well, no, well, not Spider-Cat, but like everything else, like showing the.
Well, that one had a lot of fan service. I'd say that one had more fan service than No Way Home.
but I guess it isn't. It wasn't marketed as such, and it wasn't speculated as such, because they kept all that under wraps. Basically, the only thing that came out were voice actors, and then Yuri Lowenthal came out and was like, "I'm in that bitch."
Yeah, and what's his face too when he was confirmed as Spider, whatever his name was.
Yeah,
Andy Samberg.
yeah. It's Ben Reilly.
Ben Reilly. There you go. But yeah, and then you also touched up on Across the Spider-Verse. So, and you guys are probably out there like, oh, you guys aren't gonna rank those? Those are Spider-Man movies too. We're only doing live action as well, so no animated stuff either. No animated.
That was just
no spin-offs.
An example of like what fan service could
Yeah.
be, good or bad.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
there's no confusion. We're just doing
Did
live
you-
action Spideys.
Did you say you agreed to this or
to this one?
93 and 95?
I would say yes. I would say yes. I think this one was loved by a lot. I just think that there's no. I think critics where they left it at. I felt like that was just them. I would say a 95 would be more fitting with the score. I think that little percentage of people, what is it, like 8% or no? Yeah, like 8% because it's at 93% right now. I think they just said no, that they didn't like it because of the fact that there was a lot of like fan service and all that stuff in there. I do have my gripes with the movie too, so there is a couple things there, but I don't think they're big gripes, and
nothing that takes away from the score, basically.
So I would say it's fair. I would say it's fair, and I understand that there's some people out there that are gonna take a stab at Marvel just because they're just like, you're doing good, you know what I mean?
Basically,
preying on people's downfall. Mm-hmm. It just happens. It happens that way. So with that, those are all the live action Spideys. We have Tobey Maguire, we have Andrew Garfield, and we have Tom Holland. So officially, unofficially, there's only 2 Spider-Man with trilogies, and there's only 1 without.
Yeah.
I guess for fun, I guess. For fun.
yeah, for fun.
Would you put Raimi's over Watts? Raimi's trilogy over Watts' trilogy?
Yeah.
You would?
Yes.
Now, is that nostalgia factor or genuine better storytelling?
Genuine better storytelling.
Damn. And that's just going to strike the hearts of people that were fans.
We're just going to leave it right there. Goodbye, y'all.
Turns off Mike. So, I kind of want to start jumping into it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good little warm-up. I personally would put Watts over Raimi.
This is not going to be fun.
No, it's not. I would put Watts over Raimi only because the style, the way Spider-Man is actually portrayed within the movies, more playful, more Tom Holland brings a different spin on the only reason why I can't say Andrew Garfield in this one because he doesn't have a trilogy, but he moves better with the webs than Tobey does in his movies. And I would say Andrew Garfield takes the cake, but he doesn't have a trilogy, so you can't really do that. But I would say John Watts did what he could with the web slinging that he produced within the MCU, within these 3, where Raimi's was a product of his time, and he did do a good job. There is still great scenes to be seen. I mean, the train scene is still iconic. We already know, but I feel like we've come a long way.
I don't know. I don't agree to that notion only because I just feel like no nostalgia in the Raimi trilogy, but overall they tell a cohesive story, and I've said it before on record on the podcast that I don't believe there's cohesiveness in the story of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Only because of personally, I feel like he's a repeated storylines or whatever arcs that he should already be established by, and then No Way Home kind of takes the cake by the end of it. But that last one being the winner, and the 2 kind of being dragged along is kind of more of just like, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting because one can argue that Spider-Man 1 and 2 are good, and then Spider-Man 3, depending on how you feel about it, falls short or falls flat. But those two pick it up like nothing. While I guess the Homecoming trilogy is more like, hey, guys, we got to keep moving. And then like the third one just picking them up like suitcases and moving.
Okay. Why do you feel like there's no cohesiveness?
Well, because
obviously we have the Civil War, the Endgame, stuff like that. Obviously there's
hand switching.
Yeah, obviously. Pots. But regarding the trilogy, it's all with John Watts, and he's picking up from where he left off with the other ones. There is some cohesiveness. I mean, in the beginning, in the first one, you see Homecoming, right? You see he's a kid or whatever. By the end of it, he becomes this kid that's being approached to be an Avenger, but he's not. But then immediately backtracks that, which I don't know why they didn't just tell him to take the suit mantle in the first place if they knew that in Infinity War he was going to do it anyways. Goes off to Endgame, and then he brings them back and shows that there is an emotional side that he did rely on Iron Man a lot, and now that he's missing, it's a big hole and a void, and by the end of it, he gets that dog in him, basically. He gets that dog in him, and it leads us to the final movie where it literally picks up where it left off and gives us No Way Home. I don't see where there's no cohesiveness there.
Okay.
I think it has better cohesiveness than just Green Goblin here. And I kind of like the fact that Green Goblin's kind of weaved within the trilogy of Raimi. You kind of see him messing with Harry throughout all the movies. But other than that, what do you mean? There's more. I feel like there's more cohesiveness in the Watts trilogy. I don't know.
No, because I don't want to dive deep too into it because I feel a lot of it is in my ranking.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's go ahead. Let's go ahead
agree
and
to disagree. This was a good
little.
Put a pin in it.
This was a good little sparring. So a little beginning sparring. So with that, here we go. We're gonna start jumping into it. We're gonna start jumping into these rankings.
We're gonna do first four and then our last four intermission and to talk about it, and then
we'll go to the first four.
The first four.
And then so there will be spoilers. So if you guys haven't seen certain Spider-Man movies, I mean, if you guys haven't gotten the hint, we're going to be talking about them in detail, probably very passionately at one point because you're a Spider-Man fan.
Oh, yes.
I'm a Spider-Man fan.
Mm-hmm.
You're a bigger Spider-Man fan than me.
Yeah.
You were born in the Raimi era, right? I was born before the Raimi era, and I was able to live through the Raimi and the Tasm era.
Yeah.
So there's a nostalgia factor within me for Raimi, but at the same time for Tasm.
Yeah.
Watts is purely, for me at least in my eye, is purely like MCU flavor type shit. Like I just want to know what's happening next within the MCU.
Yeah.
So I really like Watts' Spider-Man 2, the way he weaved it into. But you were born in a different time than me, so you have a different love for these movies and appreciation. How do you feel about every single one?
Well,
the trilogy,
the trilogy,
the duo. Too.
Well, yeah. So, obviously, I like the first. I like Raimi's trilogy. I'll come out and say it. I basically came out my mama watching the first one. Basically.
Like
I love that one.
I think that shit was playing on the TNT or something in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching it all the time. And then, the second one, obviously, so good. And then the third one, yeah. So I have love for all three of them in my heart. I think maybe that's why I was kind of defending the Rotten Tomatoes score, the third one, for a little bit.
I already know that. You ain't got to explain it. We already know.
For them, in case they weren't picking up on the hints.
I got you.
As far as Tasm Spider-Man, I can enjoy it for what it is. I really do like those movies. I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. He's also really good. I wouldn't say that because. What's the best way to word it? It's more of just so like he was the reboot and I was expecting something out of Tobey's or whatever, and I was too young to know what a reboot was at the time.
So was this like the heartbreak where you
a little bit, yeah,
you lost your Spider-Man kind of thing?
It was gonna come out in May 2011 or something like that. The fourth Spider-Man with Raimi's Spider-Man, and so I remember you guys were telling me you guys were like, oh, it's gonna be a reboot, and I was like, reboot? What happened to Tobey? And they were like, nah, they're going to send him back to high school, whatever, this and that. And then it was a lot of like, what the hell? That's crazy. And then the trailer came out, and I remember loving that shit. I was like, well, this looks so cool.
That first trailer with the POV,
Yeah.
where he's like jumping through the buildings and he lands on the wall. That was pretty.
Yeah,
nice.
that shit was sick.
I remember we were watching that trailer all the time.
I was like, damn, his suit is different too. I was like, I am excited for this new one. And then I love those movies also. And then here's the bumpy road for the Watch trilogy, and it's not even because, because you kind of have to start in Civil War basically. During Civil War, I was like, okay, I can get behind this Spider-Man. This sounds cool. The way the Russo's brothers wrote him was really nice. I kind of enjoyed that. And then Homecoming comes around, and I'm like, okay, a little kid friendly for my taste, but maybe I can get behind Keaton's Vulture and all this and that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sure. And then the first one kind of leaves me like, okay, maybe maybe this will be the turning point for him. And then Infinity War Endgame happens, and I'm just like, okay, cool, very nice. That was very cool to see him get the suit. Interesting that they backtracked it that way, but he got a suit. He was an Avenger for a little bit. He has to handle how Tony works, and then Far From Home comes. Far From Home, to me, was just like a big what the fuck thing, because again, I personally I feel that he's went through the same arc he did in the first one, except this time not only does the movie like have to play on what happened with him in Endgame, but it also has to advance him. But I feel like maybe clinging on to what happened to him in Endgame, they should have picked one or the other. Either have it move forward or have him cling to that. You know, I feel like them trying to balance it out really hurt them for me. And so at that time I was checked out. I was like, there's no way. I was like I really don't like where they're taking him or whatever. Like how can he be the same dude from Civil War basically? And then No Way Home comes around, and I'm like, damn. I'm like, God damn it. I was hearing the hype, and I was like, damn, Toby may be coming back, Andrew may be coming back. And that, that's what I mean. Like, they drew me in because of those rumors and stuff. And then that leaked picture comes out of Andrew, and I'm like, fuck. Do I really want to go see it and be disappointed, or do I want to go see it and like really enjoy it because it has everything I love in it? Like Jamie Foxx even confirmed it. He shouldn't have, but he did.
Did you come out disappointed?
Well, no. By then, I feel like by the end of this one, that's what I'm saying. By the end of No Way Home, I was really like, okay, I can look forward to his adventures again, if that makes any sense. But
so they had you on shaky ground.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like I said, Far From Home checked me out for a little bit. I was like, damn, I need No Way Home to do something different, and they did.
Is that because of the earthquake that happened during when we were watching the theaters, or is this a personal thing?
No, this is obviously personal.
Hilarious story. So we were in the theaters, right? It was me, you, and Julie. I think we had went to go watch it together.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and it was towards the end, right? Or it was in the middle of the movie.
I think by then.
It was in the middle where, right before that final battle on the bridge.
Yeah. Where
Mysterio was happening.
Yeah, basically where they're in the jet, I guess. Peter and Happy, and they're
basically,
talking.
Yeah. And so we're just sitting there, and the next thing you know, everything just starts fucking shaking. The chair just starts wobbling back and forth, and you're just like, whoa. At the time
we didn't pay for D-Bucks?
Yeah, at the time, they didn't have the reclinable ones. We were just kind of leaning back, because they had the kind of lean back chairs. And they just start shaking, and we're just like, whoa, what the fuck? And then a second one happens towards the end of the movie. There's the aftershock or whatever. It was just a little one. And I was just like, damn, I was like, well, I'm not getting up out of my seat. People were getting up and walking out.
People were leaving.
I was like, I'm not getting up. I paid money for this ticket. This fucking roof better collapse on my head. But that shit was funny. Maybe Mother Nature put a bad taste in your mouth about this movie.
That's not the reason why. There's no way. I'm not DC. I'm not gonna blame the weather for a movie.
Subtle jab. So with that, Josh, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? I don't know.
I'll go first.
You'll go first?
Okay.
First. You'll start off the first round.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead. What is your last place movie?
All right, let me.
I swear to God, I already. Wait, hold on. Wait. Let me get ready, because I already know something's about to slap me in the face. Okay, ready?
Okay,
go.
Dead last Okay, on my Spider-Man ranking list is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Why are you so fucking predictable, bro? Why are you so fucking predictable? Like, okay, so what? Okay, so you kind of already touched up on it a little bit. All right, you said Spider-Man Far From Home. You've touched up a little bit, saying that you didn't like that they kind of stepped in to a different direction, but they sticked with Endgame.
Yeah,
elaborate on that a little bit.
It's a lot like they didn't know what to do with him. I feel on a personal level, like it probably would have been a more touching story if he was like, hey, like Tony's dead or whatever. There's that big pit of responsibility that he was preparing me to take in.
Okay.
Let me do that. And then like make it a big story about how Tony was his Uncle Ben basically. But they give you hints of that, like maybe that was a little too serious for a Spider-Man movie, so they were like, nah, we'll sprinkle it in. But the big thing here is gonna be him wanting to be in love with MJ, and because of Tony's death, he decides to want to hang up the suit for a little bit. I'm like, maybe that's an interesting premise. Sure, make him want to leave it. Whatever. Nick Fury brings him back. That could be an interesting story on itself. But I think them focusing a lot on him trying to balance that mourning, but at the same time he wants to be in love or whatever. Also, side note, there was no intention of him liking MJ way before Homecoming. You better hold up. I'm not done. What do you call it? Like, that's just a side note, but I feel like that would have been a more serious story, and I could have taken it more serious. But by the end of it, they're like, "Oh, you're not Tony Stark at all. Like, be Spider-Man." And then he starts using Tony Stark tech, and you're just like, you just threw all that out the window. This movie it confuses me only because I don't understand.
He's a fucking teenager. He's a teenager. A
smart ass teenager.
A teenager.
And Spider-Man.
No, be quiet. You had your time to talk. Be quiet. He is a teenager. Are you telling me a teenager who is in junior year, who was just blipped and has to come back, is supposed to know how to manage his emotions with losing his mentor, okay? As soon as he comes back, all right?
Yeah.
Losing his mentor, being a hormonal little shit, okay? Wanting to have the love of his life, basically being a teenager, you wanting your cake and eating it too. I remember those times. I remember wanting to do this and also this at the same time, but couldn't do it, so I had to try to figure out ways to be able to do that, and sometimes it wouldn't work out, sometimes it would, but it is what it is. But, like, at the end of the day, he's a kid who's trying to, like, work it out, and you're like, oh, he can't have two emotions? What the fuck? That's crazy. That's a dynamic, that's a range of emotions.
It's not so much about him feeling it out, and it's more of like the story itself didn't know how to make him feel about certain things, because you get a really nice moment. Like, I'm not trying to take away from it fully, but you get this nice moment where he's looking at the Tony Stark thing, and he's like, he's obviously sad, and then it'll cut to the next scene, and he's like, Ned, I am really happy to be this thing with MJ and whatever, and then they throw him in that weird love triangle with this Asian kid. If you could remember, you don't even remember that shit.
With the Asian kid, with the handsome dude.
Yeah, whatever his name was.
Yeah,
Alex or Ryan, whatever the fuck it was. Yeah. What do you call it? And
he was trying to like sabotage Zendaya's and his relationship.
Yes, the love triangle. It was a weird love triangle. I don't know. I don't really vibe with that. And
I will say about that love triangle thing is that I didn't really like it either, because it just seemed like this dude was being a douchebag for no reason. And I was like, well, they already have a Flash Thompson, so why didn't they just use him to be the bully, basically? And I would say that's one of the biggest fumbles with that movie and the trilogy in general, is the Flash Thompson, that they kind of just threw him away and made him this dorky character. He should have
been that big ass bully.
He should have been the bully of the movie, and not just throw in some random dude who, you know, likes her as well, and is in this competition. But then that's where I just chalk it up to it being another, like, and it's funny because they couldn't use Flash because he's not handsomer than Tom Holland. Yeah. So they were just like, we got to get somebody even handsomer than Tom Holland. Yeah. So I saw what they were doing with that, but I will say that's kind of an L for them too. But that's a small L in the movie.
Like, I don't know. I feel like this movie does a lot of things I don't really vibe with. At the same time of basically redoing Peter's whole arc. Honestly, the only W that I can think of right now giving it is, again, Jake Gyllenhaal. I love his performance as Mysterio.
Do you think that it being connected to Endgame and all that stuff? Now, I know that we're trying to judge it on its own and, it being a movie and how it goes, but
yeah,
with the background, knowing that he just came back from being blimped and knowing that, everything that he did learn in the first one, he still has.
Yeah.
But he has to learn how to basically redo it all again after knowing that he just came back. And also the other kids having that trauma, because they even brought that up in the beginning where it's like, oh, if you haven't been blimped back, you came back the same size.
Yeah.
And the other ones, they obviously grew. That's why the other dude, he wound up growing big, and he was the handsome dude.
He was like a freshman when they met him or whatever.
Exactly. And they put it within the movie. So with that context in mind too, does that make that love interest thing any better for you? Because thinking about that, he was the handsomest or, the nerdy one at the time. And then, him and Zendaya being the only ones that, kind of come back and they're like the same. Mm-hmm. So they really like find that liking for each other because they are the same. It's kind of like, when you're in the same class and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier if you work with them or whatever. It's a lot easier, whatever. And then, somebody on the outside who was in your lane now is in a different lane and, having a fight with that. You don't like that kind of storytelling either?
Not really. Only because, again, I feel like the crush came out of nowhere. In Homecoming, we see Zendaya. Her MJ is like, she's obviously into Peter, but Peter is too infatuated with Liz to like even bat an eye in her direction or whatever. And I can understand that. Like you barely, like when you're liking someone else, it's really hard to see that someone else likes you. Whatever. And then everything happens in Endgame and Infinity War. And then he comes back and he automatically is like, hey, I want to get with her because whatever reason. But it like outside context tells you, oh, Peter ends up with MJ in the comics, but they don't show that at all. They don't show them sharing a moment or whatever, letting those feelings grow for a little bit before the movie even starts. They're just like, he's just like, hey, I have a plan to get with her. And then, it falls through or whatever in Europe.
Yeah, I think they could have really taken the opportunity maybe in Infinity War to like maybe had her on the bus and shown that they were like having some kind of...
Maybe instead of Ned sitting next to him, it's her or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something small to show that they were growth. That makes sense.
The movie was already stacked.
She was doing Euphoria.
Yeah, exactly. I see that. I see your... Okay, so the love issue... Obviously, the different emotions. That's another thing. What's another gripe with this movie that put it so low? Because those things to me they're kind of minor. I say the emotion thing. I think that's kind of like nitpicky, and then I think the love interest, though it is kind of a weird throw into it. I kind of felt like it helped with that high school dilemma too, where it's like you want to be this superhero, but you want to keep your secret identity hidden, stuff like that.
And that's the thing, because if they would have made it that would have been fine. That would have been like a nice spin on a superhero movie, making a love story where he wants to have that.
It's literally what they did.
No,
that's literally what they did.
Not. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
What do you call it? That make it that. Take out the Iron Man morning, because again, he tries to do that, and then Nick Fury, which is a Skrull at this time. Spoilers if you didn't know that. A Skrull is like, you gotta be Spider-Man or whatever, and like he does, because of in the name of being Tony Stark or whatever, having this burden and whatnot. And you're just like, or I'm just like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Nick Fury, the same guy who entrusted like Stark and this and that, he's gonna see a kid barely starting out and being like, no, be a man or whatever. Like, to me, that doesn't seem fitting only in Nick Fury's character or whatever, especially since a lot of people want to be like, oh, this universe is like the Ultimate Comics. I'm like, in the Ultimate Comics, Nick Fury is the one that literally tells him stay away, and it's Peter's courage and whatever that's like, no, this is my fight too. I have these powers.
But you just said it yourself that he was a Skrull at this time.
Oh well, that was before we knew that.
But you just brought up the scroll thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I brought it up because as a slight jab to be like, oh, that's really not it. But I mean, before that scene, that's supposed to be Nick Fury. Before the end credits scene, I'm using outside knowledge, if that makes sense. But you're not supposed to really.
You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. But with these movies having ties, and I would say the whole scroll thing didn't really just come out until what? Well, that came out at the end of the movie, huh?
Yeah,
that he was a scroll.
That's why context without that scene, that's Nick Fury.
No, but it's in the movie. They put it in the movie though.
I was gonna
say it feels like they showed it off in Secret Invasion, and that came out now, where this movie came out in 2021. But they put it at the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, but the illusion
in context,
the illusion being is that that's supposed to be Nick Fury telling him whatever, because he's supposed to be acting like
and that's
Nick Fury.
why. But that builds to the character that he was a scroll, so it helps.
I think like
because they put it in the movie.
Well, yeah, they put it in the movie at the end when you're like, okay, but like
that's supposed to be acting that's what
like
you're
Nick
supposed
Fury.
to. So you're supposed
Nick Fury
to. So
would
you're
tell
supposed
him,
to take that information and be like, oh yeah, he was a scroll. That's why he did these dumbass things.
The same Nick Fury that was like, what? No, because he was able to see through Mysterio's bullshit.
But it was a scroll, and it wasn't him. It was Maria.
They both did. Nick Fury called it out and was like, "Get on the roof." Or
oh
whatever.
yeah, but even at the end of the movie, they were like, "Oh, don't even tell him that we fucked up so bad."
Yeah, they were close
because they were scrolls the whole time. They obviously fucked up. That was their bad.
No,
they made it make sense. So you're nitpicking something that shouldn't be, and then you're like, "Oh, with context," but it gave you context. So by the end of the movie. Because during the movie, it's supposed to have you being like, why would he do this?
What do you call it?
But and at the end of the movie, with the intention saying that this is the reason why he did this.
What do you call it? No. And then there's the whole the glasses thing and Tony Stark's legacy. like again, sure, but you don't give the glasses of the man that was supposed to mean the world to you away.
I could agree.
I could agree.
I could agree. I just obviously in the movie, they like I said, he's a kid, he's naive. He got outplayed. That's just what happens.
I don't vibe with that. If he really meant the world to him, like they made him out to be, he wouldn't have given that shit away. Even if it was this whole big responsibility, it probably would have made more sense for him to step into that shit and be like, okay, but maybe it's too powerful or whatever. I'll put it away. Something like that, or whatever. And then. The big message, hey, don't be Tony, be Spider-Man. And then he turns into Tony Stark using his tech and whatnot to make the final suit.
He made his own suit.
With Tony's tech. Be your own man, use your own stuff. It's not like Homecoming where he takes the suit away and he's like, now be Spider-Man. And then, he does it in his pajamas. And then by the end of it, Tony still gives him the suit.
You just said a second ago that he has intellect. So he's smart enough to use that tech so he can make his own suit.
Tony's tech. That's the problem.
You wanted him to bust out the fucking sewing needles right then and there on the ship, and then fucking fight in a sewn up suit.
No, maybe not that. But at the same time, they could have written it better to be like, hey,
he's like, happy play AC/DC. All right, he's over here knitting so fast. Like,
no.
He obviously that one is obviously plot pusher and. That's fine. I don't see that as a big nitpick either. I think you're nitpicking little things, bro. No. I think you're turning into me with this movie of nitpicks.
Since I've been shitting on it for a while, like I said, I think Jake Gyllenhaal really takes this movie for me.
He's good. I love him in his role. It sucks that we didn't see him in No Way Home. Yeah. I thought we were gonna at least see a little bit of him.
Like he survived or something like that. Like he was just. He just really did good as Quentin Beck. There's nothing really. I have like no notes on him because I really enjoyed. Maybe that's the stamp of these movies where, like the villains are carry for me. Honestly, like Vulture, Michael Keaton. As much as I hate his Batman, his Vulture doesn't really
carry this movie up from the last slot.
Huh?
Doesn't carry the movie up from the last slot.
Well, obviously not. There's a lot of negatives. One W versus a lot of negatives doesn't mean move forward. It means hey.
I don't know. Kind of sounds a little nitpicky to me. But besides Jake Gyllenhaal, what else do you like? Did you like the little Skrulls twist? No. Yes. No. No. Yes. Maybe.
with or without what I know without Secret Invasion.
Without knowing where it ended up, did you at least find it intriguing? Because I know by the end of that movie, I found it intriguing knowing that they were
without knowing where it took it.
Yeah, because we know where it went, and it's like.
But you asked me earlier if it being tied to the bigger ensemble of the MCU was a problem. Yes, I do think so.
I think so as well. I think a lot of these movies, at least MCU-wise, it being part of that is an issue. Mm-hmm. You have some people who can connect it really well, and you have some people that, kind of, what is it called? Retcon shit. And it's like,
yeah. Like, if this was another Sony product and John Watts was the sole person, I'm sure it would have been very different. But because John Watts, the Russo brothers, and all that had to literally play with Spider-Man as a whole, it really fucks it up. They
had to throw Nick Fury in there. That's the thing. Is that, and you'll see it as a pattern with like Homecoming. They had to throw in Iron Man. Mm-hmm. He had to be in there, and so that's why him being a mentor. I know people don't like it, but that was the aspect of where it's like our contract says a Marvel person needs to be in here, so this is where he's gonna be. Mm-hmm. And then with Far From Home, same thing. Our Marvel contract says we need MCU character in here. Nick Fury is that MCU character. And then with No Way Home, they say, well, we need an MCU character. Who is it going to be? Doctor Strange. He is the MCU character. So I think a lot of these, I think he made it work really well, obviously, in No Way Home. But in Far From Home, he made it work well in Homecoming and No Way Home. But in Far From Home, I kind of felt like Nick Fury was squeezed in there. And you obviously can tell that with the green screen setup and the fake gun that he had.
The way that they had him.
You can obviously tell that they wanted to go for that. Struggling with my persona and being in love, but they were like, "Well, we got to throw Nick Fury in there." So boom.
Okay. Well, you can keep picking my brain later about this if you want. Oh, when we hit that intermission. But what's your last one? What's your dead last?
My dead last
Spider-Man movie.
And look, I want to start this off because
you gonna say something that's gonna piss me off. I know.
I want to start this off by saying like. All Spider-Man movies are great, in my opinion. It's just they have to fall in line for me. They have to fall in line. So if they have to fall in line, this is exactly how I'm going to put them in line. Mm. This is my opinion.
Well, you'll figure that out with mine, too.
Yeah. This is my opinion, and it is not taken as fact, so I don't want people coming at me, okay? I've already experienced a little bit of that. I don't want people coming at me. So the first, or the last number 8 for me, is the OG Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1.
Oh, ain't no way. Ain't no way.
I love William Dafoe as Green Goblin. Like I said, these movies are not bad, but they just... Spider-Man 1 for me has not aged well at all. I think there's a lot of things within Spider-Man 1 that could have turned out a little bit different, but because product of the time says that we had to do this, it obviously happened that way. Tobey Maguire solidified himself as a great Peter Parker. I don't think he plays a great Spider-Man. He's not very great with quips. I think he does great in the Spider-Man game spin-offs. I think those are hilarious to like play and listen to him like just quip, but he just sounds like an asshole in a mask, like a New Yorker in a mask, and I think it's hilarious. But I think in the movie it doesn't really do that. He does a little couple things like, oh, get it together, Gobby, or something like that, I think, once in a while, and it was kind of done with. I love the scene in the beginning where, the whole bus stuff, and, I personally, my gripe with the whole trilogy, and I think what really hurts these movies for me, is that I'm not a big fan of Kristen Dunst. I hate her as Mary Jane, and every time I go back to rewatch Spider-Man 1, she seems so lifeless in the role. She just seems like a bitch. She seems like a bitch. I'm like, why are you going after her? She's a bitch. She's a fucking bitch. Go for somebody else. I don't know. I just really, this movie for me, I love it because it's nostalgia. I love it because it's obviously the first Spider-Man. And though with the little hiccups that it does have, I have to put it at last. MJ's a bitch in that movie. She's over here with Flash at one point, and then she goes with Harry, and I'm just like, she's a fucking puta, dog. Like, just leave her alone. You don't need her.
Oh, my goodness.
What do you think?
What I think cannot be said on air. No, we're going to take an intermission now.
after 3
technical
break.
difficulties. But
Actually, I think Spider-Man 1 should be at my top.
Actually, I take it off the list. The only one that matters. Okay. What? I guess since you brought it up, I'll ask. What exactly hasn't aged correctly?
The acting, that's for one. I know Kristen Dunst and Flash Thompson's portrayal was kind of rocky.
Joe Mantello.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, they were first starting off, and maybe they didn't have those kind of chops. I think Tobey Maguire did really well. William Dafoe did really well, and I think he basically carried out the whole movie.
Yeah.
Him just being a dick himself, like he killed his people and killed. I really like that he was like this really bad villain and didn't really care. I think the scene where he kills the bad guy who kills Uncle Ben, till this day I laugh, and it's not. I don't laugh at the act of it happening. I just laugh at the fact that like the way it was executed, because yeah, the guy shows like horrificness in his face and everything like that, but like by the end of it, Spider-Man just looks down at him and his body's just like and I'm just like,
like a Family Guy death.
Yeah, I was just like, damn, they almost had me, but they had to show that scene. And I think the swinging scene at night at that one is a blaringly painful to watch now that it's very outdated. I think the other swinging scenes kind of hold up a little bit better because it's daylight, but I think that one's like the worst offender.
I don't know if I agree with that one scene that you mentioned, because I don't laugh. I don't laugh at that. I don't know how you find that shit funny. I don't laugh. Like, I'll literally be like that, and then right after that, like, you get the scene of him just staring at the city on the Chrysler Building, like, crying to himself, and I'm just like, damn, that pulls me back in. Even if you do laugh, I'm just like, how the fuck?
I will say that, yeah, it does come back, and I think the music and the score is great to, like, really draw you back. The music, the trumpet and everything like that is great. It's just, yeah, there's a couple scenes where you're just like, yeah, that didn't age well. And then now seeing that, I don't know if you ever seen that little snippet where it's like, oh, he's swinging and it's a fake Spider-Man, and then like the wind's blowing the wrong way. Now every time I rewatch it, I'm just like, damn, they did do that.
Yeah.
And then that whole kissing upside down thing and it becoming a thing throughout the trilogy, I'm just like,
what? Man, that was a staple.
It was cool, but then you notice that that's not Tobey Maguire under that mask when they first kiss.
It's stable, regardless.
It's not him though. It's not him.
You know, it's not him swinging either. No, no, he's fake. No, no,
I will still give it to like the scenes, obviously in the burning building where Goblin throws those knives and they hide and everything like that. And the Green Goblin. What's that one thing where Goblins? It makes me laugh too. Where Goblin's coming up the elevator and he's just like coming out of an exorcism. And I'm just like, damn.
Willem Dafoe going through an exorcism.
Yeah, so I would say that those what make it, and it's not that the movie didn't have a good story. It was a decent enough story. I just think that they try to make it make sense when it came down to like giving Goblin his powers, because I'm like, ain't no way a scientist is gonna just, if he would have been there by himself, that would have been different. But like the way he was slapping around that nerd. And then he lost all the funding and everything, and he still somehow managed to, keep all his tech. After that, it's like, bro, it's ridiculous. You should have lost all your money a long time ago. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's I don't know if I agree with that, because they set it up well. It's a lot of like he stole the tech right out the gate
after blowing up the place and everything like that, right? But he would have started losing money because he was basically cut out of all that.
No. What do you call it? He says, basically after he turns into the Goblin for the first time, and Harry finds him on the floor. That's when they come in and they're like, "Oh, someone stole our glider," and he's just like, "What? No way! No,
what?
That's crazy."
Goes to the parade the next day.
No. And then he loses. And then later in the movie, he finds them funding, and then he blows them up. But they basically get what's coming to him because they fired him basically, a company that he started, and yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, only because the context is all there, and I think you were getting scenes mixed up, so that I'm not too sure.
I don't know. Still, there's movies. If there's
like,
one movie that I will not revisit all the time is Spider-Man.
And like Norman being like as high status as he is, even with being a scientist, Dr. Langstrom, I think that's his name, the nerd that you were talking about. What do you call it? He does get pushed around like that. His name sounds familiar. I can't remember where he becomes, if he becomes a bad guy in the comics. But yeah, he gets thrown around and whatnot. Norman becomes Green Goblin, and then after that, he steals all the tech. He probably synthesizes more of it, and then we find that out in Spider-Man 2 that he made more of the serum. But yeah, I would imagine it's a lot of like just how the story played out and how scenes work. So I can to a certain degree I can agree that it is dated, some of it, but I think a lot of it, the story holds up. Some of the action pieces do still hold up, like that whole ending with Goblin and Peter, whatnot, all kind of hold up still. As far as MJ goes, her performance in there has been outdated. I will give you that. The screaming damsel in distress doesn't work anymore. But they were basing her off the Ditko comics, like the old comics by Jack Kirby and all them. And she was just this party girl. She was like, I'll go wherever attention is. Granted, by this time,
fucking whore.
Flash was Flash was the jock, whatever. She breaks up with him, and then Harry swoops in because Peter wasn't making a move and whatnot. That's kind of how it went down in the comics too. She was with Peter, or she was with Harry, and then she got with Peter at the end of it. But yeah, the same thing plays out. Peter couldn't have her because he's Spider-Man. So yeah, she is outdated. I will give you that.
Yeah, I would say they.
But Willem Dafoe holds up. His performance, I think, is still pretty solid.
I think so.
Same thing as Harry Osborn, James Franco. I know he's in hot water, but yeah, I still give him his flowers. And then Toby still holds up.
I'm just saying, Toby Spider-Man let those people die. The people on the balcony, he let them die. He could have saved them. Organic webbing. He could have got the bomb and took it away, but he let them die.
What? He was still on the ground saving other people.
Huh?
What do you mean?
No, he saved those kids, but that was after he got dressed and shit.
Yeah, he's not gonna fight crime in normal clothes. They would be like,
care?
"Hey, that man is dressed like Peter Parker." No. But okay, I'll.
Okay.
Is that all, or?
Yeah, that's basically it. We can move on to the next one. We'll come back for little drive-bys if you think of anything else. But what's your number 7?
Number 7.
It's your number 7.
Homecoming, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Not to say that it's just as bad, but like you said, Spider-Man movies have to fall in line at this point, and this is just how it's done. Homecoming, to me, in hindsight, is like I'm not a fanboy of this movie. I'm not gonna be like, like some people are on the internet, but I think it's just a weird start to Peter's whole origin or whatever. Like knowing what we know now, it totally would have been different. But I think after setting him up in Civil War as like this thing of like, hey, responsibility and all that, and then they kind of revert that into his character again. Yeah. In Homecoming, it's a lot of like again what I think this trilogy suffers from is just one step forward, 2 steps back type shit.
Okay.
The whole list thing is fine. We're introduced into Ned. I didn't like Ned from the jump, if I'm being for real. We're introduced to MJ. I kind of like the twist that instead of her being this party girl or whatever, she's more inclusive and kept to herself, kind of like a weirdo. So I kind of vibe with Zendaya's MJ here a little bit.
You like that recluse MJ?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, even though her name isn't Mary Jane, it's Michelle Jones. I don't know why they made that difference.
I gotta ask the question because a lot of people had a gripe with it when it first happened. Did you mind the whole race swap?
Not really. I don't really care for it. But I'd rather they dive into that more than I know some people were like, make her a redhead. I don't fuck with that.
Oh, like make Zendaya redhead?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't really fuck with that. Like, you've already established her as this character. Don't give her white people hair.
You like knowing that MJ stands for like Michelle Johnson
like,
or whatever,
it's
right?
fine, yeah. Jones.
There you go,
Yeah. I kind of like that they played into that because they totally could have just made her Mary Jane and then give her the red hair, but at that point, you got other problems on your
But they
plate.
gave her a whole different character.
Yeah.
Wait, and this is something I've been saying about Disney for a while too, that why don't they do that with all characters? You know, instead of making Ariel and race swapping it, why don't you just make a whole different character that's, you know, could sound the same, whatever, but, you know, it's different, you know? And Michelle Jones is completely different than Mary Jane, and it's still MJ and all that stuff, so it's cool.
Like, yeah. And they could have totally done something different. I like the Liz here. Honestly, I think a big part of this that saves it is Vulture. For me, Michael Keaton's Vulture. I think basically after Tony takes the suit from Peter is when I really start fucking with this movie. And that's like the last hour of the movie.
Okay.
But everything else up to it is kind of like, damn. Like, I really don't vibe with it. Like, maybe it's because it's too kid-friendly or something like that. But I don't know. And then I don't know if Peter suffers a bad way to put it. I don't know if he goes through enough turmoil in this one of really grasping what responsibility is to the point where he denies the Avengers to be like, no, I'm my own man now type shit, if that makes any sense.
Well, he found his inner Spider-Man.
Like well, that's the thing, right? Like by the end of it, you're kind of like, okay, but like Far From Home happens, and then No Way Home happens, and you're just like, damn. Or at least for me, I'm like, damn, he didn't really learn anything until Aunt May dies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about the best scene I can show you. Think about the bank robber scene in Homecoming, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's stopping the bank robbers. That's a fun scene. I can get behind that. It's a nice little scene of him just doing a normal crime, stopping a normal crime.
Yeah.
I believe it would have impacted him as a character and much more if what's his name died in that bodega when the laser hits him. Like, make him like realize that not everything's a joke or whatever, and him not taking shit seriously caused someone to die. You know, but I think again that's just the MCU's problem, where it's like he's too light to be. It's too light of a story to be like, you know what I mean? Like that's too dark to put into the movie.
You can't like push the boundaries.
Yeah,
but they can, because they have. I mean, at one point the whole boat was sinking. A boat was sinking, and he felt the repercussions to that.
Well, yeah.
Nobody died, but the point is that somebody could.
Yeah, and then like I said, it's up to that point where it's like everything becomes solid because they hammer away that, hey, or Tony hammers away like you should have called or something like that you were gonna go on and stop this heist. And I can understand that him wanting to do it on himself is very noble and stuff. And yeah, it's like, so that boat scene is nice, but again, he gets bailed out by Tony, you know, again for a second time in the movie, if I'm being honest.
But that and that's what I was saying about Far From Home. That's where that, oh, you need a MCU character. Him being the mentor was that character. So him being within that movie, though him, yes, bailing him out, he is the crutch to Spider-Man. I know a lot of people had gripes with that, but I would wish you'd say that over, you know, him bailing him out. That gripe is valid to me. But when people say, oh, I don't like that Tom Holland was bailed out by Iron Man, it's like that was something by the studios that were pushed in. But I think it totally makes sense within the movie because he was brought in by Iron Man, and then the payoff does happen in Endgame when that, you know, when he does, you know, snap, or even when he's brought back, and even in Infinity War when he loses them, like all that is built up within the MCU, and I think that's one of like the better arcs. But I don't know why Iron Man gets the good arcs and you know everybody else doesn't.
Gets the shout.
But so when during that movie, him being bailed out is to build his character. The first time him getting bailed out, he was talking to Iron Man, and he wanted him to move immediately, but he was moving at his own pace and how he wanted to, and it wasn't doing well with Spider-Man's character, so that's why he went out and did things on his own. It showed him a lesson, like, yes, it's fine taking it into your own hands, but you got to be more careful, you got to be aware of things that are happening. And then eventually, you know, he tries to have his cake and eat it too, go to the prom, be Spider-Man, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Winds up running into Vulture, having that moment of clarity after he wound up getting outsmarted because he just jumped right into it thinking, I'm going to win. And boom, there he is. So, I mean, like I said, it's different if you were to say, I have a gripe that the MCU has a hand within these movies, than, oh, yeah, Iron Man bailed him out twice.
Well, yeah, but like that, what's the best way to put it? Outside studio money, handshakes. like are we incorporating that? Because I mean, I don't know if that's completely fair. We're trying to base it on story and all that alone.
No. Yeah, we are basing it on story, but the story is fine. You can say it's appropriate to say like, I didn't like this aspect of the story because of the fact that it felt pushed in. And at that point, you obviously know why it was pushed in. It's because studios, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whatever outside sources said that Iron Man needed to be in there. Same thing with Nick Fury. He felt rammed into there. Whatever outside sources said that he needed to be in there, I felt like he was rammed into the story. But to say that it didn't make sense, it just... To me, it's like, oh, I just have a gripe with this, so the whole existence doesn't make sense. But it does make sense within the movie.
I don't know. I just don't vibe that he was bailed out, and then, well, he's bailed out twice. And like I said, the boat scene is, yeah. I can imagine, again, this is all, I guess, if Tony Stark wasn't there to bail him out.
Okay.
Because they would have found a way for Peter to get that boat to stay together or something like that. Like, oh, he didn't miss a pillar or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the boat be fine. But because he basically failed, story-wise says RDJ comes in, bails him out, takes the suit away, and then, now he has to live with his own tech and stuff, which is grounded Spider-Man, and I was kind of vibing with that towards the end. Maybe I don't vibe too much with the way his suit was because, pajamas. I don't really like. I don't like the look of his homemade suit. If that makes any sense.
In Homecoming, yeah, okay.
Like that's just my own gripe. The goggles, I don't know. I just don't like the suit.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of they were trying to go for what's that suit called? It's that one suit, the manga.
Oh, the manga versus Spider-Man.
Yeah, it looked like they were trying to go for that with a mixture of the one with the blue T-shirt looking one. You know what I'm talking about? And they kind of settled in a mixture and in between of that, and I was just like, okay, I guess homemade stuff would look like that, but I don't know. Yeah, the white goggles were kind of weird for me.
Like, yeah, I like the little details though. Like, I like that you can see him making a web in his chemistry class or whatever. So like, he is resourceful, but I guess it doesn't really live up to much because by the end, yeah, he still gets the suit and all that. He doesn't learn anything. Imagine he denies them that Tony gives him the suit back, but by then he's already made a new suit or something like that, just to hammer in the idea that he's going to be his own person from now on before, they shove him in a Civil War Iron Man suit or whatever.
In Infinity War.
Iron Man suit.
And that's what the ending was, where he refused it. It was him.
Well, yeah, but then he gives him
it being real and all that stuff was that, hey, I'm walking away for it. But then they totally backtracked it in the next movie. So, like I said, that's MCU interference, and I can agree with that. But, I mean...
what saves it from being dead last is probably that last hour, though, where he loses the suit and he has to be his own man. He makes that decision to be like, damn, do I stop Liz's dad or do I have the time of my life with Liz right now, my high school crush or whatever? And then he goes to stop Vulture, and that whole fight scene happens. I'm one of those people that believes that he didn't stop him or whatever. He kind of blew up on himself. Mm-hmm. But that's touch and go. I'm not really putting that down.
And
as
say
a point.
What you want about Ned, but that one scene where the teacher walks in and he's on the computer and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Watching porn." I'm like, okay, you kind of got me with that.
He saved the day.
Yeah, he saved the day. But I know Ned's probably an issue with the movies as well, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, he's just Genki to me. He's Genki with extra steps, and then. Like the fact that in Far From Home, I didn't touch upon it because it felt petty, but since you brought it up, I don't like that he got as much screen time as he did. Like, I don't like that he was this comedic gag where he was like, "Oh, me and Betty are a thing now," and then they get back to New York. No, it was just a fling. Like, what the I don't give two fucks about that. Like, it was unserious.
Well, he was the comic relief. That was
I don't know. I just felt I found it annoying. Funny. I found it kind of annoying.
I've actually kind of found it funny. I didn't take him seriously. I know when people were like, "Oh, the rumor is that he might become Hobgoblin." I'm like, yeah, no, don't do that. But like him as the comic relief and him just being on the side, I think I'm okay with that.
Flash Thompson, gripe with this
Obviously,
one.
yeah. That I think the whole trilogy is those characters.
Like he should have been the jock and stuff. And if you were gonna have him on the debate team, have it be a funny reason, like like it looks good on scholarships or something like that.
Yeah, he still spells like a dumbass, but he's trying.
Yes, like make him that jock or whatever, and like have him do dumb shit like that and still bully Peter. Like I didn't like that they kind of toned him down too. So I don't know what it is. Maybe they were trying to go for kid friendly because it's MCU or whatever, but you can tell a lot of it just wasn't taken seriously.
Yeah, and I can agree with that 100%. I think you're on the money with those characters. Ned, I think he's a tough pill to swallow. Some people can agree with him. Some people like him as a comic relief. Some people just find him really annoying, and I totally understand that one. So
that would basically be it, because everything else, like towards the end, is I really like I like when Vulture finds out Peter's Spider-Man and he has that talk with him in the car. He's like, I'm gonna go do my thing, have my daughter home by 8 or I'll kill you or whatever. And then he's just like, you can live your life or you can do both. I honestly, one of my big scenes out of the MCU is where he lifts the pillar, like he gets that, he has that if this be my destiny scene in the water or whatever. He's looking at himself in the water. He's has that face mask thing. Like I wish a lot of these movies still had that kind of comic thing. But they don't really do that anymore unless it's big moments like this. And then like he lifts the pillars up and he still goes after Vulture. Like a lot of that stuff saves it from being dead last.
I see it. Yeah. Okay. Any more gripes before we move on?
No, I think I touched up on all of them.
I do like that scene though. I think it's a beautiful scene. My number 7 would have to be Spider-Man 3, the Raimi trilogy. Spider-Man 3.
Damn.
Yeah. Like I said, I grew up with them, but they weren't really 110% my favorites. I do enjoy Spider-Man 3 for what it is, and I do like the live-action adaptation of it. I think what ruined it for me, that movie, and I remember this. I remember it like it was yesterday. So I was in 5th grade when this movie came out, okay? I was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
They had a novelization of the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted it so bad, bro, and this was probably like ruined the movie for me. At least there was this novelization. It had the pictures, it had the book, it had so many characters. I think Vulture was a part of it at one point because he was being set up as the next villain.
Yeah.
Like I was reading it in awe, and this was like a month before the movie even came out. I was like reading it, I loved it. Closed the book, I'm ready to watch the movie. Time goes on, the movie comes out. I still remember the book because I remember I bought this book from the fair, from the student book fair or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would just read it every night because I was like, I can't wait to watch this on the big screen. And I get up in there, no Vulture, Venom looks weird, fucking Bully Maguire, he starts dancing. That was not in the comic, that little novelization whatsoever. So much stuff. And I wish I still had it to this day because I would have been like, this is what Raimi's original vision probably looked like. Even down to the scene where like he's where that flag's at and he jumps down and everything. That in the novelization, it was in broad daylight. Like that scene was supposed to happen at a different time in a different scene in the movie. But because they changed whatever they changed at the time, and at the time I was a kid, I didn't understand why it was different. They changed whatever they changed at the time, and it turned out a different movie. And so, from me being this kid, reading this novelization and being super excited, watching what played out on screen, I just didn't do it for me.
Expectations were subverted drastically.
And as a child, when your expectations are right here, I think that was my first ever like movie disappointment. And I was just like, damn, dude, like that shit hurt me to my soul, like riddled me down. And I think that's why I have an issue with some of the Raimi trilogies, because I think that was like one of the first movies I was actually excited for, and it kind of just like let me down 100%. And I honestly, that's why I said this is like my like interpretation. I think everything else is fine. I can get over Bully Maguire and everything. I kind of like the whole Gwen with him triangle thing.
Yeah.
Don't like the piano scene when he's dancing in the bar. I think that's fucking stupid. And then so this one just really like let me down spectacularly. And the only reason why I didn't put this one where Spider-Man 1 is at is because at least the CGI and stuff and the fights hold up in this one still. And the whole Venom thing, I love the part when he slams his fist down and it's coming down and eating up homeboy with the venom, and I like that. I don't like how they just randomly met up with each other and they're just like, hey, you want to team up? That in the novelization there was so much more detail that made that build up happen.
Yeah.
And it just was just like, hey, you hate him too? Yeah. So yeah,
I can agree with some of that. A lot of this movie did run into studio interference. I don't know if Dead Last is where it should be, because I honestly find a lot of the stuff in it enjoyable. But maybe that's just because you had a bad experience with it. I can understand.
Yeah.
But for most of it, I get what you're saying. I think most of your gripes are reasonable, if that makes any sense. Like studio interference, that whole Bully Maguire aside, because I still have fun with that scene. I still laugh at that shit.
Yeah.
Like it's very campy, Raimi stuff, so it's not too bad. I'm not too sure. What did you like about it, other than what you just said? Anyway,
I like the fight with Sandman and the bank scene.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like Tobin Bell as Eddie Brock, but I personally liked him.
Yeah,
I think he was great. I like the scene where like he was taking pictures of the thing and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm dating your daughter, and I'm just like, oh, you're what the fuck, bro. I like the Gwen Stacy's dad. I think he played a fine commissioner when the little bit of screen time he did have. Like I said, in the novelization, he had a big part in the story. And then the scene where the crane, I still to this day, I love that scene. I think it looks cool. I think it's suspenseful. The scene where like he jumps in between the blocks and it just smashes together. That's a beautiful shot too. What else? At first I didn't like the concept of Harry Osborn with the board and everything like that.
Yeah.
I wanted him to have like a glider and be Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
But when I seen him and he was doing his thing in the beginning, I fucking loved it. And then he got his brains knocked out and I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And then I think the whole showdown between him and Harry at the end of the movie was good, and I think it was just executed poorly. I think that was one of the, like, I wanted to love it so bad, but then I don't know what happened. It just got a little too campy, a little too goofy by the end of it, and then it got serious.
When he's fighting him.
Yeah, when he's fighting him.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, it got serious again when he like blew the bomb in his face, and I was like, that had to be interference again, because I was like, how do you go from this fight scene where it was good for a second, or like kind of goofy, and then it got real serious, and then got goofy again, and then boom,
Yeah, it's tough because even the extended cut of that film, I think the fight goes a little harder. So they added a little bit more. Like I think in the extended cut, he doesn't just show up or whatever. He's actually there when he's pouring his drink or something like that. It's different. They play it out differently.
I haven't even seen that cut. I gotta watch it.
Really?
I've seen them put it on like the internet and stuff, but I never actually sat down to watch it.
Oh,
because I wanted to be.
I
like,
think it makes a big difference. Kind of like Spider-Man 2.1. It makes a big difference. Damn. Yeah, I like Tobin Bell as Venom. I did like him as Venom. He was the first iteration, and like even for live action, because I remember, or I guess at the time, Spectacular Spider-Man was coming out, and that Venom was stocky, and then the '90s one had a stocky Venom too, and like it was a nice little change of pace.
They're all usually pretty stocky. I think what they did to kind of like make them realistic, what Raimi did, and make them like scary, I think he did a good job. I just think that obviously the execution was done poorly because they had to randomly shove him in there, so the random meteorite that hit it randomly where Spider-Man was and just kind of like stuck to him. Like
that's the one problem, because I like Venom, but I know the story would have been so much different if he just wasn't there.
No, yeah.
Like
I heard they cut off a lot of Marco scenes. Like he had a full story arc and everything, and they cut it all off.
I'm sure he did. Same with Harry. Like that's why he gets knocked out so early, because you have to make room for the other villains. And then somewhere along the way, he comes out of it and he remembers like whatever, so on and so forth. But like you can tell, a lot of studio interference is just put into this movie. It stops it from being something great.
And you know what's crazy? And maybe this is just because like the book, but like they put Venom in the book too.
Yeah.
And Marco still had this storyline and everything like that, and I was like, maybe because the book, obviously you can write more and put more pages, whereas a movie you can only have a limited amount of shots or whatever. I was like, damn, like it sucks that his storyline suffered, because I'm telling you that novelization really dove deep. and really showed you like he was this loving father. And now today when I rewatch it, I think that aspect of him doing whatever he can to save his daughter really resonates with me, because I have kids of my own, so now like it hits more for me. But as a child, I was just more. I think it left a bad taste in my mouth, and as an adult, like I still have that bad taste, and I'm still able to put it aside if I want to do a rewatch, because I do love those movies regardless. It's just more like there's certain things in them that it's still kind of like, it's okay.
Okay.
Like I said, I love all these movies. It's just
they gotta fall in line.
Yeah, nostalgia plays into it for me, stuff like that. So yeah.
All right, ready to move on then?
Yeah, number 6. What is it?
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's my number 6. Again, I love this one, but it has to fall in line, and I do think it's fun. This movie is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give it its flowers first, like before I tell you why it's there.
Okay.
But it is really fun. It gives me a really emotional love story between Peter and Gwen. Breaks my heart. Like this movie does a lot, and it's so good. But you can tell, again, studio interference. They try to shoe in the Sinister Six. They wanted to fast track a Goblin. They wanted to do all these things that the first one, frankly, didn't really set up, other than the Lizard talking to some unknown figure about whatever. But yeah, they were really fast tracking it. And say what you will about like Electro, but I like Jamie Foxx as Electro in here. Mm-hmm. Like, it has a lot of stuff that I really enjoy. The swinging, the suit, obviously, all of that. But why it's at number 7?
Yeah, why so low, man?
It's the plot. A lot of it is the plot, or subplot, I guess, because I just love that they take the time to really flesh out Gwen and Peter here. That is probably the main people of the story for these two movies. But like Goblin disease, Harry trying to force Peter into giving him blood or whatever. Like I didn't really like that. If he became the Goblin, have it be totally organic. Don't try and force him into a disease that's literally killing him when his father probably lasted till he was like 60 or something like that. I just had it and I totally like lost that shit.
But he was having treatment. The dad was having treatment. Harry could have had the treatment too. He just wanted to get the cure.
Yeah, he wanted to fast track the cure. But I really don't vibe with that, because you're telling me that turned him into the Goblin much sooner, trying to find the cure versus.
Well, he took that serum, and he wasn't taking the cure or the treatments that his dad was taking. If he would have been taking the treatments, he would have lived a little bit longer.
Could have, should have, but he didn't. That's the thing. He turned into the Goblin. Yeah. And whatever. Goblin design aside, I think it's fine. I'm not really touching up on that. Like, again, with the Rhino, whatever, Goblin disease. I know I had another one in my head before you said something. I totally forgot where it went. Damn. The parent plot. The parent subplot. That's where it was. Okay. I feel like these movies hindered on that, but to be fair, I for one don't think about Peter's parents at all. in the comics, like they are a footnote, and they always try to make them secret agents or whatever. And I know the first one did that, where they were like, "Oh, he's the reason that these spiders happen or whatever." But honestly, the first movie should have been a one and done for that plot. Don't try and carry it into the second one. Like the action scene being that the first action scene we see being the two of them on that plane or whatever, and that they die and stuff. Like, yeah, it was sad, but I really didn't need it. And then like halfway through the movie, Peter is literally piecing that all together still, while Gwen is doing whatever, living her life and stuff, and he's still stuck trying to figure all that out. Like, I didn't really vibe with the parent subplot here. I
see, and that I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I kind of liked that Uncle Ben was kind of mentoring him from beyond. Like, even as a kid, he was kind of thinking about, oh, how am I gonna? It's kind of like a what is it, like a Superman approach?
Mm-hmm.
Let me pre-record some hints and stuff like that. Whatever, and let me be your mentor even beyond the grave. I liked that in a way. He is also the birth of Spider-Man in a way, like they kind of put him on that path. Uncle Ben obviously was the reason why he, completely went that route or whatever. He went down the vengeance route first or whatever. But I think they made it make sense, and I do think that bringing them back for the second part, them kind of, they shouldn't have given them such a big scene like that. I think I thought it was pretty emotional in the beginning, seeing it in the theaters. That shit was pretty emotional to see the parents going out the way they did, seeing that he did care about his son and his wife.
Yeah.
He just, was doing things for Norman Osborn.
He was tangled up in it.
I was thinking that that's what was basically going to happen, is that by the end of it, it was going to be Norman Osborn doing, and obviously his, obviously it's been hinted at since the beginning, but it was going to kind of confirm and be like, yeah, this is what basically happened. And there was going to be, the Sinister Six that basically Norman was breeding.
Yeah. That's another thing, though. The Sinister Six. I can understand Sony wanting to do this big thing and trying to put it all together, but shoehorning enemies in a movie that should take time to be fleshed out and actually give you a reason to have that beef with Spider-Man should exist. Like, I like that Rhino was the little footnote. That's fine. But now you got Goblin, Electro, and then by the end of it, Harry is just like, oh no, we're going to put together a team, start with Rhino. And then we don't really see where that goes, whether it could have been something great or not. But like them trying to push off the Sinister Six, not just here, but in Raimi's trilogy, like it hurts them. It honestly hurts them.
I think Sony's the real villain throughout all these movies. I think they're the villain that couldn't hold their wad. Because we know obviously in Spider-Man 2, by Spider-Man 3, they were like, oh fuck, we're gonna make a lot of money, and they did all this and put all these villains in there. And same thing with the second one, they were like, oh, the MCU's doing great, fuck, we're gonna make a lot of money, and they put all these villains in this one. And obviously you got a little taste of that with Homecoming. They were just like, hey, contract says we need these characters, so they would rather have characters to prop them up than an actual good story. So Sony has some patience they need to exercise a little bit. But I mean, it's fair. I can give it to you. It sucks. I don't like that you put it that low, because it's one of my spoiler personal favorites, but it's because Andrew Garfield for me is just charismatic. He carries. I fucking love Goblin, his character. I love that guy, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but like he basically was like in all kinds of movies, and he gave out like a charismatic fucking Harry Osborn, Dane DeHaan. Like at one point he was all over the place, and I feel like he really gave a good charismatic like Harry Osborn. I personally liked it. I don't think it was better than James Franco, but I think for the modern era, I think he did a good job as Harry Osborn. But sucks that James Franco's going through his thing. So I guess I can respect you. I can respect you for where you put it, but I think I'll touch up on it a little bit later on, for sure. But my number 6 would have to be Spider-Man: Far From Home, and to me, I love this movie. I think it works great. I love the villains. I love Mysterio. I love the scene where he has to use his spider senses, and he's going through all those like obstacles, and he's dealing with basically all the trauma he's been dealing with throughout the whole movie. I like how Mysterio's basically tripped up this kid over and over again, and a lot of people are like, well, he's a grown-ass man bullying this child. I get it. Yeah. We understand. In the first one, we seen the 6-year-old man beating on the fucking 16-year-old. So, I mean, get over it. Get over it. He's Spider-Man. He's going to have to deal with it. Yeah. I don't like the inclusion of the Skrulls, or we kind of already touched up on it. I don't like the inclusion of, some of the stuff that obviously Marvel needs to put into the movies in order to make them successful. So I think that's what really hurts a lot of these MCU Spider-Man films for me. But as like a newer take on the character, and I personally like Tom Holland as Spider-Man 2 and as Peter Parker. I think he plays that goofy, awkward one kid, and also like that quirky Spider-Man as well. I don't think better than Andrew Garfield himself, but I think that if we had to get a replacement, then Tom Holland does fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because we already kind of thought about this when I put it down. I'm ready to move forward. I don't really because I know where you stand.
Yeah,
If that
no,
makes sense.
no. I know we basically have a understanding
Yeah.
on why it's there. But yeah, I already know. We already know what you're gonna talk about. We already know what you're gonna say. Your gripes with it is a big issue. I already know what my big issue is. I think there's room to talk about a little bit more, but I think that's gonna happen when we hit our midway mark. So we'll go
We're
ahead
already
and
at the midway mark.
no, we're on number 6, so we have no more number 5.
Oh,
so
five,
what
five.
is your number 5?
I was debating on where to put this one, but I wasn't too sure. Because honestly, the last 3 kind of had to fall in line. So I think that it's fitting, but at the same time, I'm tell you why it's a little shaky. But it's No Way Home. I like it for what it is, for what it tries.
At number
to
5?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Too low or too high?
I think it's kind of low. I would have thought, having the trio together would have really brought this up for you. All right, go ahead.
I think it's because okay. That's the thing, right? I do like this movie. I like what it does. I like that it brings in my favorites and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of that is just smoke and mirrors. You know what I mean? I think they you can tell that this movie didn't have the crutches or whatever, and it was really trying to backtrack what the first 2 did because people kind of panned those 2 as bad movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Damn, how do we fix it?" And they were like, "Let's bring back everybody. Let's try to make them this thing." And then by the end, they do it right. But I really believe that a lot of it is just, hey, fan service. Let's do it. And I think that's why he made all this money. Daredevil, Spider-Man, Willem Dafoe, like all the shit that worked from the first from the Raimi trilogy and from the Tasm trilogy is here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of my big gripes because you don't have a single villain from the Sinister Six that I guess is like Tom Holland's villain, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've already hit this idea on the podcast too, where like it would have hit so much harder if he had people on from the people he fought on here, Shocker, Vulture, Scorpion. He said he had a problem with him at the end of that cutscene, but they didn't play with that at all.
Mm.
Or hell, making Mysterio, who's behind it all, and just being like, "Oh no, like I'm still alive. I faked you out. Come get me," type shit. Like there, I think there could have been a bunch of ways for it to put it together, but because they were trying to really hammer home that they basically had nothing like that. They were just like, let's do it this way because we know how to. We're gonna farm in those nostalgia people and whatnot. I that's one of my biggest gripes with it.
I see that. Too much nostalgia then. Too much nostalgia bait for you.
Yeah, like they were.
But didn't
really
you eat up the
shit.
bait?
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah. That's why it's this high. Like it was fun. Like I can admit that I had a great time watching this movie, and but it's at this slot because it does. I think it does better than the other ones, obviously. But I can't acknowledge this movie without acknowledging this is why they're here.
But this one, from start to finish, seeing your older characters, also, the inclusion of Doctor Strange, all that stuff, like that didn't help you get through this movie and be like, well, this is one of the better movies. Even bringing back certain characters to kind of redeem them.
It did, but it also does.
And by the way, by the end where Spider-Man is left off.
Well, yeah, this is why it's that high also because, like I said, it has stuff in the movie. That's why I wanted to address the crutch first before digging in on the actual thing because I still have gripes with this movie and some things I really don't like about this movie. But I feel like I said, you can't address this movie without addressing the big light bulb, I guess, that's on it that says, "Oh, we did this because nostalgia or whatever the fuck you want to call it, fan service." You know that comes with it because again, it has Daredevil, has Spider-Man villains that aren't Tom's. It has Toby and Andrew in it. Like, it does a lot that basically they couldn't do for Tom Holland. So what do? They use pre-established characters from their movies to be like, oh no, let's do it this way with them, and then give them that development.
That's not true. The MCU had a hand in it, and it was a multiverse thing.
What do you mean?
That's why the inclusion of the older villains and all that is because of the multiverse. They wanted to establish that the multiverse was real, and they brought in different villains from different eras.
Yeah, and let me dive into that then. This is the tricky thing about magic, because you can totally be like, oh no, this does this because we say so. And my big gripe, I'm sure you've heard it before on the internet, the wish that he makes. They say it happens because it happens, but I don't know if it makes much sense to me when you really try and peel it back. Like, a wish that grand, wouldn't you think it was just gonna affect his universe or something like that? Like, how does it tie in other universes? Like, maybe I didn't get that, and if you can explain it, I'll take it away. But for me, it didn't make much sense. Like, how does him fucking up the spell in his universe fuck up everything else in every other universe?
They said that it just brought in the villains that Spider-Man had battled or knew were Peter Parker into that universe from different universes, and they were from those universes.
That's
from
why
those timelines, from different timelines, from different times.
Electro didn't know who Spider-Man was. Lizard did. Dark Octopus did, but they say that when they pulled them out, he didn't know that at the time or something like that. Which I didn't get that either, only because he calls him Peter in that little battle on the freeway.
Because he thought he got a new suit, but he didn't see who was underneath.
That's why. But he knew who he was, but they say that they pulled him away somewhere before that. And he only finds out that Peter's Spider-Man
when they were about to die.
When he's about to die.
That's when they found out that he was Peter, is when they were about to die. Except for Goblin. He knew for a while.
He did.
So did Dr. Octopus. Because he even said, too. Oh, no. Well, he gave Spider-Man...
He finds out just before he dies.
Right before he dies. And then Electro knew. And so did... the
Lizard knew.
Lizard knew. Yeah, so they all knew who he was. That's why they were brought to that universe. So they made it make sense within the movie.
I don't know if Electro knew.
How did he not know?
I don't think so.
How did he not know?
What do you mean?
How did he not know?
They didn't. I'm like 99% sure Electro doesn't know who Spider-Man was by the end of TASM 2. Because even Dane DeHaan's character, Harry Osborn, doesn't team up with him at the end, and then he finds out Peter is there anyway. But by then, Electro was dead, quote unquote dead.
No, because when they broke into the place and they were getting all the information, they were easily able to pull up his name. They didn't obviously make it known, but I think he was supposed to know who he was too.
I don't think so. I think that's a little. That's
might
a little
be
reaching.
You know what? That might be a issue in the movie. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, it might be reaching.
Because, like I said, if
I can admit it, but I'm trying to defend it.
No, but that's why. Like I can give it to you, but at the same time, I gotta call you on and be like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they didn't make it known in the movie, so it's up to speculation.
That's why they could have done it to Vulture, or whatever. They could have brought in Scorpion. They could have done another version of Mysterio, maybe, if they really wanted to. Bring back Jake Gyllenhaal, something.
That's what I thought they were gonna do.
But I don't know if the wish makes sense, and I think that was just a big, like, hey, we'll say it does this, without really going into much detail because we can't explain it ourselves, and then, we'll bring in all these other people. Whether it's the big multiverse issue or not, I personally see it as a quick getaway to be like, oh, we didn't establish any characters, and the one that we did establish is in jail or in dead, or I guess in this time, Michael Keaton is in Morbius. I don't know.
But at the same time, you got to think too, they don't necessarily have to be from that universe. They can know them by those characters, but it could have been pulled out from different universes at different times. So that could also be a play into the whole multiverse thing. That's what I'm saying. The multiverse thing is always a sketchy subject. And when the MCU started diving into it and stuff like that, I was more like, it's going to make things kind of hard to know where start begins, where end begins. And it's a big mess. But either which way, I can see where you stand. Do you have any more gripes? To number 5.
Ned.
Ned having magic is something that
that's what I thought. People were throwing around, or I guess people were throwing around the idea of people being Mary Sue, and I'm like, why did no one call out Ned? Like, why did he randomly just be like, oh, I'm magic now? Like no one ever called that out.
Well, he just doesn't know how to use it. It's not like he's just using it willy-nilly. He's still having trouble using it. It's not that Rey got powers and, you know, it's that she automatically knew how to use them. When you have new powers, it's fine. It's just don't be like, oh yeah, I'm boss this and I know how to use them A100, you know?
Well, yeah, but they never set that up ever. How is he just magic? How
They never set that up.
Like that's my gripe.
I gotta admit that.
Yeah, them. I know there was more. Venom. Why did they do him like that? Why'd they just bring him in and then send him home?
That was a bad thing too. But hey, you can't be bringing that up either. You can't be bringing it up because a second ago you were talking about the context with the scrolls and all that stuff in Far From Home, and then all of a sudden now you're bringing that up. That's crazy.
Well, if you didn't see Venom, you're just gonna be like, "What the fuck? He just showed up in No Way Home and then went away? What?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but at the same time, that wasn't like a big plot pusher either, and it was just kind of like a fan service nod too.
The wish, whatever. I don't like the suit. I really like the ending suit.
Yeah.
The too shiny for me. That I would assume that's basically it. I did like Willem Dafoe. I did like that he was going ham on Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
But
that scene was pretty nice.
That would be it.
I like how Tom Holland, like, it was funny when he was over here like, oh yeah, I did a video game movie, and he did like that balcony like spin and go through the floor, and I was just like, that's it?
Yeah.
I was like,
they made it a big deal.
I was like, that was it? That's cool. Whatever. Not too bad though. Anyways, moving on to my number 5 before we, you know, start beating each other for our intermission. My number 5 is Homecoming.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I give it to Homecoming because I think Homecoming is a great beginning story. I understand that you have the gripe where you said that, like, you know, he's repeatedly doing the same thing, but I think in this one he has like high stakes. I think that, you know, the whole, I think the love thing actually made sense, him trying to go for the, you know, the hottest girl or whatever, and the whole MJ being in the background and him not, you know, exactly going after her from the jump. I was hoping they were going to go for Gwen Stacy when this iteration was coming out, but that's fine. You know, that's not a big deal with me. But yeah, and I don't really have a lot of gripes with this one. I do think the inclusion of Iron Man is obviously a big deal for a lot of people, and obviously the MCU stuff. But I honestly think with John Watts, because it was his first movie, I think he was on his A game, and I think he really made it work really well. I can tell you Far From Home felt a little bit more forced because I think in that one it was just more like, damn, at the end game I gotta add scrolls, I gotta add Nick a certain character in here in order to, you know, make it seem believable. Marvel has a say and stuff like that. So I kind of understood with Far From Home that it kind of felt more forced, but with Iron Man I kind of felt like it was a little bit more fluent and more I guess more drinkable, you know?
Yeah.
I was able to take it down a little bit more. But Homecoming to me, I still think it's a solid like first MCU film. I just wish they would have done a little bit better with it. Just I would say more, I mean, obviously we don't want to see more Uncle Ben and all that stuff, but at least, you know,
my goodness.
At least you know, I would say the rescuing of him twice is a big deal for me, but at the same time I think they made it work for what the hand they dealt. So, but I think we basically ran through this with yours regardless of anything, but I put it at number 5. Obviously I have 2 of your Raimi movies down there, and I have 2 of my or 2 MCU movies basically.
2 Watts.
Two Raimis, 2 Watts. So you guys can kind of guess what's to come with the top 4, but it's depending on the order. Okay, so don't jump down my throat yet. For you, Josh, you had basically all 3 Watts ones at the back end, and 1 Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, 1 Andrew Garfield, TASM 2. Obviously we have 2 different variations here.
Yeah.
Why did you put all of Watts' trilogy at the bottom end?
They just had well, okay, because I I can say that I like them, but I can tell you that I like these a little less than the rest.
Because of the MCU.
Yeah. That's one of the bigger gripes, I guess, that everything has to be set in this timeline for it to work. But it just doesn't work for me. I really do honestly believe that he repeats the arc 2 times over before, I guess, the third one hammers it in after losing Aunt May, which I thought was also very dumb. And then being like, okay, here you go. Like, now we can start from square one. Way to please everybody type shit. I just feel maybe it was because of the MCU, and maybe that's not fair, but I mean, that's the universe is playing ball in. Like, that's like, it's totally like the idea of like, oh, but Andrew was going to get a third one, you know, whatever. But like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's all ifs and buts. And the factuality is that the MCU, the Watch trilogy is part of the MCU. You can't take it away, you know, because I mean, he has 3 different appearances outside of that. It's these movies just don't work for me.
Yeah, I can tell, and then that little slick jab of putting Amazing Spider-Man 1 in there, that shit's just crazy to me. So obviously nostalgia does play a factor, and I think for the both of us, we can both agree and understand that the MCU ones, John Watts trilogy, was very much MCU movies, and they don't hit as
flavored.
They don't hit as hard as what Sony was putting out solo.
Yeah.
But they do well because everybody loves Spider-Man, and because everybody wants to see what happens next within the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, how that whole, I mean, if you guys really care about the business side, obviously how like the 2 parents are gonna handle this property, you know, and seeing what's happening next. Very, very indicating and very telling, and I think it's time for us to really jump into the top 4, and I think that's where most of the argument's gonna be at. So, with that is our bottom 4. We kind of went a little bit longer than usual on this episode, so we're gonna make this a 2-parter for you guys. If you guys are wanting to look forward to it, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. Make sure you guys put something down, a reminder. Part 2 will be coming out on Tuesday. Josh, let them know where they can hit us up if they have any questions, comments, concerns, if they want to give us a movie to review, anything like that. Support us in a big way.
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FIlmBros Podcast. Keep those notifications on because Tuesday is when that episode drops again. So Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FIlmBros Podcast. We post for new episodes. You can hit us up there for any news or movies you want us to cover. Or tell us that we're smoking crack on this list, and then give us yours if you want. Listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, things of that nature. We're on a bunch of sites. Go check us out there. Buzzsprout, the link is in those bios of the socials I just gave you. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FIlmBros Podcast. Supporters get special perks and shout-outs on episodes because we recognize you for helping us out, and you help us grow. And then, when it's all said and done, subscribe to our YouTube at FIlmBros Podcast.
And with that being said, we will see you guys on Tuesday, or we'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.
Talk to you guys later.